The complaints about Doge have been very interesting. You know, on the surface, you see the left complaining about it. You also see below the surface some on the right are complaining about it. And the man who's highlighting all of it and exposing all of it is Representative Tim Burchett, District 2 Republican, great state of Tennessee. Glad to have you back, Tim. How are you?
Hey, Joe, it's an honor and a pleasure to be on with you. Thank you for putting the truth out there.
Well, the honor and pleasure is all mine, my man. So we're watching just the expose of the ridiculous spending of American taxpayers' money. Trillions of dollars in debt every year, adding $2 trillion more to the deficit. Oh, well, the deficit is $2 trillion a year. The debt is growing every year. And we could probably nip this right at the bud if we just decide to stop spending recklessly and ridiculously. You're exposing a lot of this, and I actually saw a quote from you where you said, I'll probably be primaried, but I don't care.
Yeah, well, I think if they dig deep enough, the trail's going to come right back to Congress, right out of the American taxpayers' back pockets into the back pockets of Congress. You know, we've uncovered stuff in the past where we've sent money places, and it's gone through some little myriad of channels and gotten into people's campaigns and stuff like that. But this corruption is just too blatant and it's too arrogant. You know the reason they're going to start pitching a fit, people in both parties, because why? Their wives and or their girlfriends are getting a cut off of something. They're in some quasi-governmental agency. They're in some advising or consulting group. But, I mean, do you honestly think we're spending $10 million in Madagascar for circumcisions?
No,
I mean,
I don't.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that. And, you know, I always, when they say it, bring up that topic, I say, but it's voluntary, so it's okay. But all kidding aside, you know, we're sending money, we're paying for pornography, we're paying for sex change operations overseas or in Central America, places like that. Man, this is it's the classic Pentagon, you know, the $12,000 toilet seats.
Right.
Money's going somewhere else, and this is crazy corruption. We're just printing money right now. It's just out of vapor. Every dollar we sent to Ukraine is borrowed from your great-grandchildren, if you could imagine that. We have
Well, let me stop you there because you're right. And for those who don't remember, $12,000 toilet seats was a real thing. An ashtray back in the day was $500, which didn't make any sense. So I hear what you're laying down. Have we gone and checked out Baghdad TV to find out if there's Sesame Street that's on the air there worth 20 million American dollars? I mean, are you saying that we know that most of this hasn't really happened and we don't know where the money went?
Well, half the money during COVID was stolen. Here's another one. I have a bill. I had it last year, got it through the House, and the Senate chose not to take it up. It deals with we've sent in $40 million a week, $40 million a week to the Taliban. Sick. Now, dadgummit, Joe, those cats will hate us for free. We don't need to be giving them any of our money. And then we've had other discussions. We think it could be in the billions because of all the other operations that are going on and where all this money's going. So America needs to realize that Washington is crooked as a dog's leg. And until they do, they should question every dadgum dollar, every dadgum cent. They should not, don't trust us with anything. That We're like, is the proverbial, you know, wouldn't trust you in an outhouse with a mask on your head. And then that's the thing, you know, it's crazy. And it's just getting worse. Every time I was sitting there with Elon, like I know him, Elon, I call him Elon. I called him Mr. Musk in the meeting. I said, I just call me Elon. So I said, there, Elon, man, I started talking about this stuff and it's just, when you're talking about somebody over 115, the oldest living American they documented was 114 years old.
Right.
And we're paying somebody somewhere something that's older than their own than our country. We're sending money to somebody in Peru. You know, and they say, oh, this is anecdotal. This is, you know, they told me $40 million. The former Secretary of State Blinken told me that $40 million a week. They said they weren't sending any money to Taliban. I said, well, and I read him the documentation. He said, well, that's just such a small percentage. Now, how freaking arrogant is that? You tell an average Tennessean $40 million is incidental or is a decimal point, you'll end up on your backside and run out of town because that dog don't hunt, Joe. We are in such dire straits. And one other thing, and I'm sorry I went to preaching. I'll have a
No, keep
altar
on going.
call.
Don't stop. I'm loving
I'll,
it.
I'll have an altar call when all this is over. But I was looking in the Doge committee that my friend Marjorie Taylor Greene was kind enough to put me on, and I was looking at the Democrats and I was thinking, what in the world are they thinking? And then I realized most of them were just young, idealistic, and some of them were getting a lot of press. Now, what's happened? You see that old crew that runs the Democrat Party. They're tired. They look disheveled.
Yes.
And they need to go out to pasture. They need to go home and raise their grandbabies
Mm-hmm.
and play with their grandkids at the senior center. But those guys are jealous of these young people, and they're sending them. They're like cannon fodder, and they're sending them off, and they're going to get them politically killed on these issues because these are 80-20 issues. You know, nobody in their right mind thinks that a man with a penis should be swimming against women,
Right.
girls, and should be undressing and dressing in their dressing room. Nobody thinks that. 20% of these whack jobs do, but I'm not concerned. They're wrong, and they're playing with the devil as far as I'm concerned. But they put these young idealistic kids in there, and that's what and they're going to get them killed. And I remember told AOC this. She and I both came to Congress. We don't agree on anything, but we're friends. I said, Cortez, you're not going to have to worry about the Republican Party killing you off. You're going to have to worry about the Democrat Party. And to a large degree,
Tim, I got to ask you this because it's like you're clairvoyant. You got into my brain. I was going to ask you why the Democrats are acting so badly, and I did not consider that the Pelosi's and Maxine Waters of the world want to send them to slaughter because it makes them look better, like they were the normal ones. So let me ask you about Gavin Newsom, because what you just said brings up the fact that he was on Charlie Kirk's podcast and literally sounded like a Republican. He sounded like a conservative.
He's a chameleon.
Does he see the writing on the wall, Tim? Is that what it is?
Absolutely. He wants to run for president. Dadgum, Joe, this guy, he's a chameleon. He's a good-looking dude. If I looked like him, I'd be the next U.S. Senator from Tennessee when Marsha Blackburn runs for governor. But the truth is that they read the polls, and they know they got to get through a primary. And, they got to get to the general, and they got to have some moderate, well-meaning, he's seen the light. He hasn't seen the light.
Right.
He's just, it's like when these moderate Republicans, they try to appeal to and appease the university liberal crowd,
right,
and the intelligentsia, and so much that has infiltrated a lot of our churches, unfortunately, and our chambers of commerce. And they think, they get out, they write an editorial to a newspaper, which, I can't tell you last time I read a dadgum editorial, but. Right. But they think they're going to get in. They're going to get in good with them. You know what? They're going to use them like a pimp uses a hooker. And once they're used up, they will throw them aside. And that's tough talk. It's rough talk, but it's the truth.
No, I believe you. So, in other words, if I'm hearing you, what you're laying down, and I am. And by the way, thanks for all the dadgums so far today. I just love when you say that.
I can't cut. If I cuss, my swear jar is full of IOUs right now, Joe. So.
No, I hear you. I appreciate the dadgum. So, if I'm hearing you right, they're letting people act the fool like Jasmine Crockett. They're letting people act the fool like part of the. I know that you like AOC. I'm not a big fan, but they're letting them go out there and make fools of themselves so that the next wave can come in and say, hey, we're the blue dogs again. We're the moderates again. You can vote with us again. What is the plan?
They're soaking up too much of their money, and there was no plan on the House floor. If you saw that, there were 3 different groups. There was one group that was wearing red because the Republicans don't stand with women, but the day before, every dadgum United States senator voted to allow men in women's in girls sports. So you got that group. You got the one group that's gonna yell crazy stuff, and then you got the other group that's gonna walk out. There was absolutely no rudder on that ship. They were going in 3 different directions, and they look like fools. Can you imagine if the Republicans had not stood for a little boy who had fought cancer bravely? And I met that kid. I was coming out of the Oval Office with the president, and I got my obligatory hug from him. And I just thought, Lord, I can never complain about my bad back or, prostate issues because I'm 60 or anything else. This little boy, my gosh. And then you got a a little girl that I know got a volleyball spiked into her head from a guy, nearly killed her
Right.
because it was another dude because he couldn't play in men's sports.
Right.
The worm, and then he goes and these gutless NCAA and all these schools don't have the guts to do anything about it, and we ought to, man, anybody. Well, and then you got a wife and a child that their father had shielded them from an assassin's bullet from
Right.
getting killed. You can't stand for that. You know, and then what did they clap for? More war with Ukraine.
And so disconnected that when Trump says you want to do it for 5 more years, yes, absolutely. And then he calls Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas, and she keeps on clapping. Let's do it. Tim, they're literally voting for, or they would like to, their wish list is to keep on killing more people in Ukraine. It doesn't make any sense to me.
No,
they're literally hoping for more spiked volleyballs in the faces of little girls. Make me understand it, because they can't be this dumb. They were so congealed and so together for so long. Now, all of a sudden, it's falling apart. But again, you just enlightened me. It's got to be the old guard saying, go ahead, have fun, enjoy.
Yeah, they're compromised somewhere along the line. Somebody, used to say somebody did a deal with the devil. Well, they did, maybe not the devil, but it's emissaries. The Russians used to have the honeypots, and I said something about that, and I got in trouble. I got called to the woodshed. And what the heck happened the next week in Washington? A prostitution ring. And guess what? Chinese prostitution ring was busted. And they said, who are their clients? Were government contractors. They said high society people and elected officials. And guess what? Just like the Epstein files, that black book never came to light.
Right.
But anyway, America needs to wake up. They need to wake up.
Well, I think we are.
Well,
you agree? Are we starting to wake up or not?
I think a little bit, but I'm not. I get called to the carpet when I call out the Baptist church for not, preaching the gospel. So, I don't care anymore. We're going to lose our dadgum country, and maybe I'll get taken out in the process. But I just think that we better wake up.
Listen. Let me just say this. We need you in Congress. District 2 Republican, great state of Tennessee. Your district is listening right now, and they're watching right now, and I want to make sure that you stay there. But let me ask you a couple of simple questions. You mentioned the Epstein list. We're going to get that eventually, I guess. I mean, we keep on hearing that we're going to, then we got nothing on the first day. Hopefully something will come out. But when it comes to paying off to the tune of $17 million, any sort of sexual allegations against members of Congress, that's my money. Why can't I know who that was in benefit of? Which members of Congress are paying people off? I should be able to know that. I should be able to know which members of Congress are out there running the stock market on legislation that they're voting on. Why can't I know these things?
I have a bill to do just that, and it was released today about, and there's another one out there. Mine's a little tougher, and they tell me mine doesn't have a chance of passing. But let me tell you the real problem in Washington. The Washington sewer is these staff. We have staffs. We have committees. Republicans have committees. We have 50 or 60 staffers. And I've heard chairmen say before, Democrats and Republicans, we can't do that. My staff wouldn't allow it. Now, who the hell elected the staff? That happens all the time. All the time, Joe. And I've called them out on it in our conference meetings. And, and they'll say, we're working on it. We're working on it. Why in the heck can't I get a bill out saying that the Taliban doesn't get $40 million a week? Why do I have to go to leadership? Why do I have to go to the speaker? Why do I have to go to President Trump? And he calls it out. And, when they're walking in, I had Sheehy, the new senator, he's taking it, Navy SEAL, tough guy. Tuberville's on it. And some others as well, Senator Haggerty, I think. But, those are the type of things that you shouldn't have to beg for.
It's a no-brainer.
They ought to just do, but they don't. We'll have staff. We'll have hearings and markups, they call it, where they take up the amendments. It's a sham. It is a sham. It is a system that's stacked against the citizens, and they need to wake up. And they need to demand better out of us.
U.S. Representative, Republican out of District 2 in the great state of Tennessee. It's Representative Tim Burchett. So with all the DOGE stuff, the USAID stuff, all the bloat and all the fraud that we're finding in Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security, Will this stuff get done? Because right now it's feel good to hear about it every day, but then we're hearing that the new budget that you guys are voting on is gonna be $7 trillion a year, which makes no sense. So can we get those savings into starting cutting back on the deficit and starting paying down the debt, or is it just going to keep on spending more money every year and that's the way it is? But we'll talk about saving money, but we won't really do it.
That's exactly right. Here's what I told the president on let's see, what is today? Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. I told President Trump, I said, Mr. President, your Doge stuff, you're going to make cuts, and they're going to be good. We're not going to have the guts to codify it because somebody is getting fat off of it. But the savings that we do that you do, we will turn right around and give it to the war pimps at the Pentagon, and they'll continue building weapon systems that no longer that are mothballed the day they're made.
Right.
We know that the future is drone technology. It is manless flights. There's still room for men. We're still going to have boots on the ground. But when they can put 50 or 60 drones up in the air in front of our airplanes, they're not going to shoot them down, Joe. They're just little kamikazes. They're going to kill our people. And we better pull back on these crazy planes that cost $1 trillion, that cost over $1 billion and cost over their lifetime $20 billion to keep up.
Right.
And that they will probably never see combat. We've got to pull back on all that. And we don't have to invest more money. We can invest the amount we've got or less into this technology. And, quit doing with this, letting the government develop this stuff. Let American private enterprise do it.
Well, what did he say? It sounds like you asked him directly, what are you going to do with this money that you're saving? Let's not just send it over to, as you said, the war pimps or the war party, as Ted Poe, my good friend, former representative, calls it. What did he say? Is he going to try to actually pay down the debt, balance the budget? Because it sounds nice to say it, but we should do it.
Yep. Incredibly, he was very down with that. He was very much. And I thought, well, if I've ever done one thing in politics in my life in the federal government, this was it. That at least I brought that to the table, and it became a source of conversation, and I'm going to keep plugging that because I'm right and they know it. And I'm not suicidal. So if you find me with 13 bullet holes in the back of my head tonight, I did not shoot myself.
Well, that would be bad. No, we don't want to find you with any bullet holes, in fact. It's Representative Tim Burchett doing the work for America and for Tennessee for sure. I don't have a ton of time left. What are the chances of your bill, which you say is harsher, it might not get through, or something that would literally tell Congress, both the Senate and the House, don't do any stock trading while you're in office? Can that work or not?
Snowball's chance in hell, Joe. It ain't going to pass. It won't pass. I'll die on it. I'll preach and scream, and the House will pass a version, and maybe the Senate will, and they'll go, oh, if they were smart, this is the way they do it. They would pass a really tough version in the House, and then we'd all cheer, yay, yay, Burchett, you're the greatest, or whoever. And then the Senate would pass their version. Oh, man, you're great, you're great. And then the leadership and the big boys would wink and nod and say, we're never going to get together on this. And then we never would pass it. It's like term limits, Joe. It's a good thing to raise money for, but nobody ever does it.
Well, it's like you guys, constantly voting yourselves a pay raise. When you get to control your own pay, you get to do anything you want when it comes to sexual assault allegations and pay people off. When you could go and stock trade on issues you're about to vote on, why would you stop doing that? It's all good for you, and I don't mean you specifically. I mean you, the body of the Congress of the United States, the House and the Senate. So. We have term limits as the president because of the 22nd Amendment. Would it be an amendment to term limit you guys in the House and Senate, or can you just simply vote on it as a law and the president signs it?
We can vote on it as a law, the way I understand it. Also, back to the stock trades, I would encourage people, there's a Twitter or X site, it's called Wales, something Wales, I can't remember, but it lists in their little in their first tweet that they post up, the top 100 stock traders in Congress and their percentage of return. And everybody rails on Pelosi, but her percentage of return is like in the middle. I don't even think she's in the top 10. It would shock you. And my stockbroker Tommy Seiler down there on Gay Street in Knoxville, he manages my $13,000 mutual fund portfolio. For the record,
you're not worth $250 million yet, Tim?
Well, I got a baseball card and comic book collection I'm trying to sell right now to pay part of my mortgage down, and I hope I don't have to get into my motorcycles because I love my motorcycles,
Well,
but I love.
and then we've got somebody like Jasmine Crockett's worth $9 million, and we don't know why. And if you ask why, you're a racist. So I mean, the whole thing is so backward. I love that you're a realist, because I think right now we're pie in the sky and happy days are here again. All this Doge money that's being reported, the courts aren't even letting them cut the money back. Even the Supreme Court, with Amy Coney Barrett voting the wrong way, isn't allowing the president to do what he wants to do. Last quick thing, Tim, if you don't mind. Thanks for jumping on today. Really appreciate you jumping in the car. But let me ask you this. Will President Trump, before the midterms, because that's going to be a vital election, will he be able to show us, with you and with the Senate, any savings at all, or is this just pie in the sky?
I think he's going to have to do some savings. I saw Jim Jordan, I think it was yesterday, said, "Show me some savings, and then we'll pass this a clean CR with some savings, with some cuts."
That'd be great.
And I think we need to show the American public we better do it. Tell your legislators, back the president, pray for our country.
Well, tell your dadgum legislators, right?
Dadgummit, you better.
Tim, I love when you come on. Anytime you've got a minute, you want to talk about stuff, stay safe, keep on working hard for America. We love having you on. It's a District 2 Republican, great state of Tennessee, Tim Burchett. Tim, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I love you, buddy, and thank you for standing up for our great country, brother.
Doing the best I can.
We need more like you.
We love you back, brother. We appreciate it. We're back after this. Stay right here.